Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, July 3rd. We have some different focuses we're going to do today. Let's see. Let's re-roll this. Shaman cards and Shaman victories. That can overlap quite nicely. There's Tavern Brawls now last 7 days. So we've already done the America's Tavern Brawl this Wednesday. So I'm gonna play this on Friday and then play the Asian Accounts Tavern Brawl on Monday. Which means I just need to do the Shaman class in regular play. Just Shaman, Murloc Shaman, rank play, start playing. By doing a Tavern Brawl every stream, there's more reason for people to come and watch every stream, even on Fridays where it traditionally always been slow, and it just spreads out the length and the frustration of doing Tavern Brawls. I wanted to mention this. Lego Tower has come out for iOS and Android. It is Tiny Tower, basically. Let's see. There's, I guess, not really a lot to say here other than it is Tiny Tower with Lego minifigs. Seeing Lego license themselves out for other games is fine. I could see why that would be interesting to people. They're not particularly that interesting to me. Fallout Shelter is still probably a better game than Lego Tower is, and I couldn't really see myself getting into playing another cell phone game. I'm kind of on the verge of getting rid of a few cell phone games, and Clash Royale in particular maybe has fixed its problem, but then they've added a new problem by asking people to buy the Clash Pass, which is like a monthly purchase, and it puts anybody who bought that pass, it gives them a gold title. And I'm looking at everybody in my clan on Clash Royale, and they just all have gold titles, and I'm like, oh yeah, everybody here is just paying to win. That's exactly how this is going, and I think that probably is going to frustrate me to the point of just giving up on Clash Royale. I'm close to getting everything maxed out, where I have the maximum amount of each character, but I'm kind of nowhere close to actually upgrading all the characters, because that would require a lot of money, and it'd probably take me 6 months to a year to upgrade everything past this point. So yeah. What to do? Yeah, I've got like 3 or 4 games that are potentially on the chopping block on my cell phone. And I think I kind of am also going through a slightly just changing phase. I've noticed this every 7 years or so, and the reason I say 7 years is that they say over the period of 7 years, every cell in your body has been replaced and you're a completely different person. It is a theological debate at that point more than than anything else. But yeah, I've felt that about every 7 years I start doing something a little bit different, and the challenge there is to not get away from video games. I played video games almost all my life, but there was a period right before I started streaming on YouTube where I'd been out of playing games for a couple of years, but I've been for a long time listening to podcasts. Now I'm kind of listening to YouTube channels that are kind of pirating, for lack of a better term, radio stations. I've burned out on a lot of the podcasts I was listening to and been unable to find podcasts that replaced them well. And a lot of things I was listening to originally in podcasts were computer and IT stuff, since that was my field, or is my field for lack of a better term. Now I'm more just going entertainment and comedy radio stations. So yeah, and I've been watching a lot more Netflix lately than I have in the past couple years. Maybe there is a slight argument that Netflix is just adding more content also. I've even gotten back to watching a few anime series, which I haven't watched anything anime for probably five plus years. So I don't know if I'm moving into something new or if I'm just moving back into something old. Either could be true. Moving on though, we have a game on Steam called Colonies, which looks like it is a real-time strategy, low-effort game. Early access for $7.99. English only. Claims to have full audio English. There's nothing there of any interest.
Stormy, stormy.
Job's done.
We don't have a ton of news today, but I've said that in the past couple of recordings, and it really hasn't proven to affect how long we've gone. We're still going about 2 hours, or 3 hours a stream. 3 hours is about how long it takes. And I don't know a way to change that unless Hearthstone changes, or I stop playing Hearthstone and play something different. Which, I'm basically gonna say this, I think every recording now, is that let me know in the comments if you really love how these Hearthstone videos go. That this is your opportunity to save them now, is that you to put your love for them. Although, in all fairness, let's be honest, there's been a considerable lack of views that I've gotten from doing these Monday, Wednesday Hearthstone streams, while also talking about the news and video games. And the news and games that came out on Steam are not negotiable. I don't see a way that I'd ever get around not including them yet again, even if I were to move over to a different game, which I'm expecting that I'm moving over to the Marvel card game. So even when I'm doing the Marvel card game, I'm still going to be talking about news. I may not talk about news that much the first few weeks or even the first few months as we're learning the Marvel card game, but very quickly we'd be back to talking about news.
Science overwhelming.
But yeah, I do want to hear people's opinions if they like the way these streams go now, or what they do like about the way these streams go now, or what they don't like about the way these streams go now. But I don't. What I don't want to hear, and I'm not going to listen to, and I'm just being really honest here, is if somebody tells me, if you do this thing that I really love, or if you continue to do this thing that I really love, you'll get a lot more video views. Because if I'm already doing it and you already love it, well, I'm not getting views now, so clearly you're not right there. Like, don't speculate on whether I'm going to get more views or less views, because unless you have a channel with a million subscribers and you're an expert in the field, that's about the only person I'd even start to listen to in that case. Just tell me, I like this part, I don't like this part. That's really all it boils down to. Seriously? How did I lose there? I swear, sometimes playing ranked is just totally a kick in the butt. It's so bad. Like I'm in a bad mood after the first game on the European account playing ranked. And I believe this is the first game playing ranked I've played at all today. And I'm already in a bad mood because somebody pulled off some BS combination that I don't even understand how it worked to do 11 damage to me. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Vollun, V-O-L-L-U-N. It looks to me like it's an asset flip horror game. The only thing that I think could possibly save it is if this video showed me something, but I'm not seeing anything. Seems like you just walk around and there's some generic asset flip corpses, and that's it. Early access, $6.99, English and Portuguese Brazil, with Portuguese Brazil's language being the main language since it has full audio. And they're suggesting that it's like Layers of Fear. I didn't like Layers of Fear. A walking simulator that's also a horror. I don't think you can make a video game around that, because I just don't think you can have that kind of experience. How do I say this? I think you could make a movie or TV show where everybody's missing or everybody's dead, and you can build on tension and build on fears. And I think you can do that for a few hours. A couple hours in the movie's case. Maybe you could even do it for 3, maybe 4 hours in a TV show / miniseries. But after that specific amount of time, if there aren't storyline revelations, and frankly you need more people to interact and talk to, yeah, it's gonna get very boring very fast. And for a video game where video games are almost always built around some level of action, there's really can't be any action if you're just walking around a empty building. And it really, I guess, also just comes down to how are they presenting their own game in the screenshots. They were doing a very bad job of showing me any gameplay in that. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Gamatsu has an article. Warsaw for PC launches September 4th. PS4 and Switch versions to follow. This looks like it is a flatly animated, what would you call this animation style? Comic book, almost? Like an old 70s comic book style? War RPG? World War II? Let's see if we can watch the trailer. Yeah. It looks a lot like Darkest Dungeon, that they've taken the idea of Darkest Dungeon, put it in a World War II scenario, and maybe there's something to that. Like, there's been a lot of Darkest Dungeon clones, and it really is just going to come down to whether they're good or not. There we go. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Miyamoto, I assume this is Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario, has said cost and dwindling appeal make new adventure games a hard sell. Which, yeah, I guess that is slightly true, but also Shigeru Miyamoto really hasn't been ever known for making adventure games, so he's not particularly an expert in adventure games. Mario games have always been platforming games and such. I would also say adventure games are not a great sell. Even for a Switch that has a touch screen, that they've never been particularly great in supporting anything but PCs. And we see a significant amount of adventure games come out over the course of a year for the niche audience that it is. I don't think you ever make the argument, though, that adventure games are ever going to come out of being a niche audience again, because the thing that made adventure games so popular is that they ran smoothly, and they had, at one point, the highest level of technology in them because they had voice acting in the games. And so you were getting, in the early 90s on PC, well animated games in a world where a lot of other things looked very badly animated that ran very well in a world where a lot of things were barely running at 20 frames per second, and you've got voice acting in a world where you would barely get any sound files at all. So once PCs and consoles all gained enough power where the graphics looked better in other games, consider like the original Doom versus Doom 2016. The original Doom looks worse than an average arcade adventure game. Doom 2016 looks way better than an average adventure game. The sound effects in the original Doom sounds worse than an average talking adventure game, whereas Doom 2016 sounds way better than an average adventure game. So they had their heyday. Adventure games were the top style games for probably a decade or more. So they had a good run, and they are never going to go away. It is also worth mentioning that even if Nintendo is branching out to allowing a lot of people put their games on the eShop, even adult games on the eShop of the Nintendo, and visual novels on the eShop, which are definitely not going to appeal very much to kids. I think there is still a level there in which Nintendo sees itself as a kid-centric platform in at least its first appearance. So adventure games don't sell to kids in particular. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are already several adventure games on the Nintendo eShop. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there aren't that many. Let's see. Alright. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Play NYC 2019 graffiti game developers have been announced. Apparently this is a gaming convention. I've never heard of it. series of graffiti games will be placed on the show for attendees to experience. And so these games are never going to be seen anywhere else. Let's see. And I doubt they're going to be anything more than indie jam style games.
What to do?
Alright. Poisonous. And poisonous. And what do we want to kill first? That one. And that one. Just play cards while we're here. Yeah, I'll leave that article, I guess, that TechRaptor article for you to read if you're interested in playing YC 2019. I'm not. Gamma Sutra has an article, get a job, join Disbelief as a senior programmer. That's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, or Chicago, Illinois. That seems like that's a job listing that may have not been listed in a while, but has been listed recently. Over the past year, it feels like. Gamatsu, in kind of a counterpoint to Shigeru Miyamoto, Layton's Mystery Journey, Cotrelli and the Millionaire's Conspiracy Deluxe Edition is coming to the West November 8th. Upgraded Switch version dated for North America and Europe. So, this is not Professor Layton, this is Lady Layton, who's like the next generation of the Layton characters. So now I would say the Layton series is kind of an adventure game with a lot of puzzles in it. So it's a rather heavy, to my understanding, puzzle-centric adventure game, whereas most other adventure games have puzzles, but the way the puzzles are implemented are often through story puzzles or conversation puzzles on top of just this is a lock, pick this lock, or this is a slide tile puzzle, solve the slide tile puzzle to move forward. Let's see. When we look at the numbers here, it says Deluxe Edition includes more than 40 brand new puzzles and other puzzles modified from the 3DS version. There's DLC that's being unlocked, and oddly for Lady Layton, she is getting 50 new outfits that you can obtain, and improved graphics and layout, which is interesting. Okay. I think some of the Layton series, we know the Ace Attorney series is coming out is out on well, yeah, we know the Ace Attorney series is out on Steam. I wouldn't be surprised if the Layton series is eventually coming out to Steam also, since they're very similar styles of games, in my mind at least. Maybe they're not that similar. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Focus Home reports a record year as Farming Simulator 2019 passes 2 million units sold. So Farming Simulator, super successful for what it is. It is surprisingly successful. This. 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 And then in the turn. Yeah. if I'm going by the thought that 300,000 is a lot of sales for an indie game, Farming Simulator still in my mind is an indie game, and it is going nearly 10 times that. So, well, that's really bad math there, but it's a lot of sales for a game that's Farming Simulator. I have this paranoid thought that some of these Farming Simulator games might actually be back-ending some AI GPS guided tractors in the real world, and you might be playing this game and getting nothing, or actually paying to purchase a game to play, and then they're taking the actions you're doing and actually using it to run a real tractor somewhere as to actually farm. Or probably more accurately, if this were to ever happen, or if this does happen secretly in the back end, they would take 1,000 instances of people playing a specific level, run it through an AI, and see what the best possible tool-assisted speedrun would be for that instance, and calculate the best way to run it that way. Although, really, when you're talking a tractor, you're going up and down. That's pretty much all you're doing. There's not a major trick to it, as far as I understand. The harder part of farming seems to be just knowing what to plant, when to plant, and how much like nitrate and other minerals you need to add to your soil, and how much you need to water. And in the United States, they subsidize corn way too much, and if we got away from corn and grew something else, like, I don't know if it would be soy or rice or something like that. Probably rice would be a major improvement if we replaced half of our corn that is just used to make ethanol and gasoline. With rice, we'd probably do better that way. But probably a variety of everything. We need more diversity in our crops. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, A-Train Express Plus announced for the PS4. This sounds like this is a train game. Let's see, what is it tagged as? Trailer Train Express. Yep, this looks to me like it is just a simplistic train simulator game. There's far too many of these in existence, and far too many bad versions of these in existence, and this seems like a bad train game. New content available as paid expansion for the original game. I guess that's a PS4 game, according to the tags. Gamatsu has an article, Death End Request 2 announced for PS4 update. So what's the update? See, new information has come out via Weekly Famitsu. Release date and price have yet to be determined, so any other new information is not really that information. See, like, it's just telling you background story, and none of that really means anything. We'll see what happens when the game is announced and ready to actually be talked about. Let's see.
A new Valore Delana.
How do we want to deal with this?
Remember the sun.
in the channel. Canasta has an article here. Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town remake announced for Switch due out this fall in Japan. Now, I don't know what Friends of Mineral Town. I guess it's a remake of a Game Boy Advance title called Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town, and Harvest Moon, More Friends of Mineral Town. Seems to be more about the characters, but still very much about the farming. And so, alright. This might be a slightly better Harvest Moon than the Harvest Moon games we've seen recently, but it still probably isn't that great. Let's not get crazy here. The Harvest Moon series has not done that well, and most Game Boy games are terrible.
I concede.
We are getting a bit of a win streak here, although we're kind of having to work for it. So I really wouldn't want to quit on a win streak, but who knows. I can see the end of the road right now, so there's probably still an hour of gameplay. Here we have a game on Steam called Lemons Must Die, which seems like it's a lemon, like a real texture of a lemon running around. There might be a game here, or this might be an asset flip game. Let's see. It looks like a platformer. Playing as a lemon seems weird. It seems trolly. It seems like a joke. I don't know how you get out of this feeling like a troll or a joke in any way. Let's see what Superbyte Games has made otherwise. Nothing. Alright. Alright, well, Lemons Must Die is discounted to $12.74 and supports a bunch of languages. I guess it has one achievement, which probably doesn't mean anything, but it might mean it's an achievement game. I guess we put this on the follow list and see what happens. That's really all it can kind of boil down to, is if people actually purchase that and play it and tell me that it's really good, I'll bow to those reviews and mob rule and potentially put it on the wish list. If not, I'll just move on with my life. Next we have a game on Steam called Canasta 3D Premium. Now previously there was I believe it was Rummy 3D Premium from the same developer. So, let's see, yeah, Rummy 3D Premium, Scat 3D Premium, Classic Card Games 3D. So they've taken their series and spread them apart as like $10 games or $15 games in one instance there. This might work, it might not. I'll put it on the follow list. It's kind of more expensive to buy this than it is to buy Tabletop Simulator in the long run if you're going to play multiple card games. But it supports English and German, and it might understand the rules of Canasta a little bit better. Of course, I don't think I understand the rules of Canasta enough to be certain I know how to play it. So, yeah, this looks very unfamiliar as far as what you're doing. But yeah, I guess whatever. I'll put this on the follow list, see if people respond to it. I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of game never gets any reviews and just gets removed. There are several games that are getting announced by Major Nelson from Xbox, and he's like, these games are now on Xbox Live, And I'll see these games and I'll see to myself, it's like, I have never heard of these games at all, because they're coming out day and date now with the release on Steam or the release anywhere else that they might be coming out on. So I'm starting to see more games that feel like they're legitimate because they're coming out to Xbox Live, when they really shouldn't feel legitimate at all because they're coming out on Xbox Live. We've seen with the Nintendo eShop and Xbox Live and even the PlayStation Store, actually pretty badly on the PlayStation Store, where there's been low effort, nobody's ever heard of them style of games.
A new Valore Delana.
Let's see. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. The 3D shoot 'em up Flying Girl Striker is coming to Switch this summer in Japan. So, this is currently on the App Store and Google Play. Doesn't have a video to show off, but I imagine if it's a mobile game and it looks like this, you're not really even shooting up as much as shooting forward in the 3D environment, but it's probably a pretty slow and simplistic game. Lock on and crush enemies with homing lasers. Yeah. Compared to a standard arcade or PC shoot 'em up game, I imagine it is not in any way close.
Here, Stormy, Stormy.
Do that, I guess, in the turn. And of course, I don't think I could ever be sold to play a shoot 'em up game. Gamatsu has Azure Lane Crosswave trailer. This is the one that is coming to PS4 on August 29th, and maybe the Switch and the PS4 in the West, but maybe just the PS4. It's going to be hard to justify Azure Lane Crosswave coming to PS4 and it not being censored when it's from Idea Factory and Compile Heart, two of the well-known anime girl developers. Those are the games they make, and Azure Lane as a series is anime girls that represent naval ships. So generally these Azure Lane games are gacha games, for lack of a better term. So anime girl fighting regular ships, and I'm seeing standard cleavage and short moe style art styles, although I don't know if moe is the right art style to even call it anymore. Like, moes may be out and they may be on to something else. Alright.
A new Valore Delana.
It might be that Azure Lane is just going to be pre-censored, so that there actually is no censorship there. On the side note of the Sony censorship versus, I guess, Nintendo's lack of censorship, Nintendo is taking the hands-off approach that the whole point of the ESA was created to take this hands-off approach, and saying that they're just going to let the rating systems do the job for them, which is the point of the rating systems. So if something is do I have enough here to win? 15, 19, 20, I'd be one short. Played out of order there. But yeah, the The ESA was set up to rate games. If a game has some level of nudity, it's probably going to be in the teen plus, or mature, or adults only categories. If there's really no reason for Sony to all of a sudden, after years of using the ESA rating system as much as anybody else, to say we want extra censorship and extra changes made. It's really ridiculous. Like, I'm personally 100% against censorship and 100% for proper classification. If you tell me it's an adults only game with the most horrendous, vile imagery and sexual content you can think of, fine. I'm fine with that. I'm probably going to be okay with even looking at it. But if you tell me it's an E for everyone game, and it has that same level of vileness and full of sexual content, then I'm going to be upset because you lied and you didn't properly label yourself, and that's the problem. And I would be upset if, as an adult, if I found out that any child was tricked into seeing content that they were not ready to see because of somebody lying about the content in their game. Whether that content is violence or sexual content or anything else, even disturbing words or imagery. Like, I don't think there are too many people out there that are pro traumatizing children. Although, arguably, there's a lot of people out there that are pro doing a lot of things that do traumatize children that they don't recognize is doing that. And that's just bad parenting in a nutshell, or bad teaching, if you're a teacher.
Come on in, spend an evening by the fire.
Let's see. And what are we gonna re-roll today? 2 wins, destroy a bunch of minions. Let's re-roll this one and play mage. Again, we're not gonna do the Talon Brawl today. We'll save this one for Monday. So I'm just gonna play some ranked mage, and if everything works well, I might be able to get all of the news done around the time I get all the daily quests done. Otherwise, we'll just continue playing ranked, I guess. So, we have a game here on Steam called Illusion of La Phallica, or La Falsia? El Falsia, I guess. Weird name, certainly. This is one of the games that was released day and date with the Xbox Live release. It looks like it's a slightly more polished RPG game than just a standard RPG Maker, although it may not be that good, so I'm taking some
Jaina versus Jaina.
I'm taking it with a pinch of salt, I suppose, is the phrase I was trying to use. You can see they've released a lot of things previously, or they have a lot of things scheduled to come out, but not a lot of things reviewed. And I don't know this developer, and I don't know this publisher, and I'm not seeing any of these games. Never really seen any of them before, which that is slightly disturbing in itself, because I kind of felt like I had seen everything on Steam. So I guess there still are some surprises. This game is $11.69 discounted. It's English and Japanese. I'm going to put it on the follow list, see if some reviews happen. In the bigger question of JRPG games, I don't see how this one would be the one in the top 10 to actually play and follow. Though, because, yeah, it would be really silly to play a unheard of, unknown JRPG game. There's better ones to play. Next we have a game on Steam here called Aliens and Umbrellas, which looks like it's just a low effort arcade game, kind of like a Galaga clone, I believe. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here of interest. 99 cents, English only, bunch of achievements, looks horrible. Yeah, that's your standard not worth your time style of game. Not worth my time style of game. Here we have Tech Raptor's way in which they wrote the title. Cuphead, the delicious last course, delayed to 2020 to avoid crunching. In the exact statement, they don't say the word crunch. They say
I wonder.
something similar. They give off the impression, certainly, that it's avoid overworking themselves. Although I would argue that there's a slight difference between overworking yourself and crunching in general, because I feel like crunching is this thing that's forced upon you, and it's calculated, and it's something that the management at your game company is intentionally doing, in part to manipulate and abuse you. Whereas I could see somebody just saying, alright, we need to work a little bit harder to get this done. We need everybody to put their nose to the grindstones. And it is possible that there's a scenario out there where there would be a game development company that was taking it really, really easy and barely doing a third of the amount of output that they normally would do. And then they would say, well, we're delaying the game because we want to just continue to be lazy. That would be a different experience by far than crunch. At that level,
Job's done.
like just the verb crunch, like when you're crunching a can of soda, that's a force being put outside on an object, whereas motivating yourself internally to keep working and finish it feels a little different. Although maybe it's not, and maybe in part that's how so many developers get away with enforcing and asking people to overwork, is that they make it feel like it's something that you feel obliged to do, or they make it feel like it's something that you really want to do. And I'm not 100% against the idea of forcing people to take time off. Like, seriously, it's like, do not work on the weekends, do not answer phone messages, phone calls, or emails when you're not at work. I think it's perfectly acceptable for companies to have those kind of policies, or maybe even governments. Some of the European countries have made it straight up a law. It's like, you can't call us, you can't email us at all, and if we do have to call us and email us, then you've got to pay us more, because that really is what a middle manager's job is it's how can I exploit my employees to the maximum to get as much work that I don't have to pay for. Alright. Darn it. That was one short. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Get a job. Vicarious Visions is hiring a software engineer in Albany, New York. Next, we have this Tech Raptor story. I feel like this is a non-controversy. Frankly, I haven't heard anybody really talk about it other than, I believe, Kotaku, who wrote this story just to cause a controversy. Mordhau controversy addressed in statement from developers. Let's see. The PC Gamer article claims that there is rampant racism and toxicity in Mordhau, so it wasn't a Kotaku article, it was a PC Gamer article. This is the standard claim that they say is in every game because it has a chat that's not 100% censored to the liking of PC Gamer. Let's see. So the game developer basically said that they didn't think it was really a problem originally. Maybe now they are trying to kowtow a little bit and and basically, yeah, it's a non-controversy. There's no story here. There really isn't. Mordhau is fine, Chivalry 2 is going to be fine, and PC Gamer is just going to attack the next big thing. Are there some jokes in chat forums, either on the game site or in the in-game chat? Sure. Is there a level of censorship, or like this message has been withheld because of, or this message is blurred because it has a bad word in it? Sure, you could put some automation in that, but frankly, it will just never be enough for people like PC Gamer, and that's why I stopped following PC Gamer, is because they are run by just pro-censorship SJWs that will not be happy until everything is under their control so they can be the thought police against everybody, and it's just never gonna work. It's not a good plan, it's not a plan that would work, and it makes SJWs look really dumb when they do things like this. If you wanted to complain about toxicity or racism, there's better places to actually address that and complain about that. There are definitely countries that are doing full-on ethnic cleansings right now, and there's way better and way more important subjects like that to talk about than what's going on in a video game or any other entertainment source. So once there's no more ethnic cleansings happening in the world, maybe come back and then tell me that you need to censor Mordhau. And honestly, that was a article that I'm not sure I really even needed to mention at all. Giving PC Gamer even the negative press is still giving them press, and that's all they wanted in the first place. Let's see. Next article we have from Komatsu. River City Girls launches September 5th for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This seems to be a beat-em-up brawler where you're playing as girls instead of guys, inspired by River City Ransom. It's from WayForward, the developers of the Shanti games, and several other games, I believe. I'm pretty sure WayForward made the Shanti games. But I don't think River City Ransom is actually a WayForward series. I think it's just an old arcade game. And so they put out this trailer. We can skip here. It's also being done by Arc System Works. And so you've got Misako and Kyoko, two people that are going to be in this beat up pixel art game. And it looks like a fun game. And I assume those are the two male interests that you're trying to save, which is, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened in River City Ransom, is that you had one female interest or two female interests getting kidnapped. And so this is just a gender switch of that. Of course, you could argue the idea could be jumped with some DLC or something like this, and just saying, hey, how about one specific character gets kidnapped and then there's an opportunity to play as any gender you want. So there's like an equal number of guys and girls that you can play as. Because even some of the beat 'em ups in the 70s and 80s, well, at least the 80s, had that as an option. There were at least one female characters that you can play as, while the rest are mostly male. So it seems a little backwards to go back and segregate the people. That being said, with this style of animation and with Way Forward being involved, I feel like these two characters are being picked in particular so that they can be developed as actual characters, whereas most beat 'em up games don't really have too much of a story behind the characters you're playing as. And so they've limited it down to two girls that are probably friends, fighting together, so that they can have interesting lines of dialogue. And you're really in no place to complain about a game that just stars all female characters, because there's been so many games that had the male only option. It would have to go on for a decade. We really would have to have a decade where 70-80% of all games were female only characters before we could even balance it out for the many decades in which we've had male only characters. But we really should just skip over and always have a gender option if it makes sense. Now, Mordhau's case, they thought about having a gender option, it said in that article, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense when you're talking about medieval fighting, because in the days of medieval fighting, there was a few females in armor fighting and such, but not a significant amount. You'll always have a few stories of somebody who hid that they were female and joined the army in medieval times. And certainly you have Joan of Arc is often depicted wearing armor, and in part potentially executed because she was wearing armor. Techraptor has an article here, The Legacy of the Borderlands series and the road ahead to Borderlands 3. This is probably a long hype article just to kind of explain explain what's gone up until this point. It seems like some of this might have more to do with Gearbox and the Borderlands game series in the background, whereas frankly, if I was going to read anything about Borderlands right now, I would really just like it to focus on the story and the gameplay that has happened in the previous. So just a quick refresher or starter guide for people that maybe didn't play any of the previous Borderlands series. But that's kind of all I think that they would need to an article about. Like, every time I have to talk about Andy Pitchford or Gearbox or any other shenanigans that are going on around Borderlands, I just feel a little saddened by it. I don't really want to have even heard the stories, let alone
Let me show you the arcade.
let alone report on them. Moving on, we have a game here called Shadowland, which seems like it's a game where you're jumping on shadows. There might be a game here, and this does look like it is a slightly interesting artistic vibe to it. It would be a pretty simplistic game, though. I don't think that this would be more than like an hour's worth of gameplay. But maybe $7.99. They probably overpriced themselves. English and Spanish. Says it has 80 plus levels divided into thematic chapters. I'll put this on the fall list. It doesn't really look like it's worth $7.99 though. If this was a $2.99 game, I would consider it a lot more. But I'll put it on the fall list and then probably remove it.
Science overwhelming.
So,
Here comes the big ass.
next we have a game on Steam here called Welcome to Chichester, or Chichester 2 Part 2. No regrets for the future. This game is a sequel to a game that came out like a week ago. It's a low effort visual novel, for lack of a better term, and you can see in the video and such that there's just nothing here. Early access, $1.59 discounted, 40 achievements, clearly an achievement game. Now, if I cared, I might check to see if there's a Welcome to Chichester 2 Part 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actually doesn't even exist.
This one's a real page turner.
Feeble mind.
There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called Valley Run, which looks like it's a VR infinite runner game that already from the video itself I can tell has a lack of tight controls and feels like it's slowed down so you don't just crash into things. Way slower than if you were actually riding some kind of motorcycle or whatever it's supposed to be. It's $14.99 and English only. Yep, there's nothing here that would make me want to play this at all. Alright.
We hunger for vengeance.
Job's done.
I could lose here or I could win if I draw the right card. I have 10 cards, 1 in 10 options of drawing something that might actually be useful.
I let the dogs out.
Yeah, so I've lost. Unless this wins. Yeah, it won. Nice. Got a little lucky there. So we need one more victory and to destroy several more minions. Next we have a game on Steam here called Fear in Hospital. It's already mixed reviewed. This must have come out of early access. It looks like a low effort asset flip horror game. The graphics look terrible. It's free to play. I guess the price is right. Although they're comparing it to Zombie and Dead Space or Dead Space 2, and that's like a weird comparison. This is an English-Russian language game for free. I don't know why a troll game would be free though. Maybe they decided that it wasn't worth selling. Next we have a game on Steam here called Logistics Expert, which feels like a game where you're doing somebody else's job, so that's not really going to interest me that much. Although in this instance it is at least doing a job that I don't think many people have seen done before.
You asked for it.
I wouldn't immediately play something like this and go, oh, I get it, I've seen this done 100 times before. Whereas if I was playing Forklift Simulator, I've seen enough people use a forklift to get the idea and be bored with it pretty quickly. This is $1.49 discounted, English and Russian. It's probably a Russian troll game or mobile game or whatever. It's definitely not something that's going to make it to the fall list, though. I don't know. I hate to say it's political, but I don't know any other reason why all of a sudden we started seeing a lot more Russian troll games again. Like, we went for at least 6 months where there were no Russian troll games. And, like, I know allegedly, and probably, the US has stepped up cyber hacking against Russia. It would be rather pathetic and silly if their reaction to them being cyber hacked by the US military is for them to continue to start putting out more Russian troll games on Steam. But it might simply be that that's the case. I don't understand the logic there, but it could just be a case of funding gets opened up by some politician in Russia, and then that funding gets misappropriated to make a video game on Steam, or maybe actually exactly appropriately appropriated to make a game on Steam. It makes no sense at all to me, but maybe it makes sense in the long run. The thing is, you're not going to really convince, as somebody who's a pretty staunch defender of Steam, you're not going to convince me or probably anybody who's used Steam even a little bit that there isn't a huge amount of terrible games on Steam. But we just kind of move on with our lives and go, okay, yeah, we know that's true, but nothing's going to change that. Next we have a game on Steam called Cubifactorium, which sounds like it's some kind of Russian or no, German factorium built with cubes. It's like it's mixing Factorium and Minecraft together. Early access, $17.99, English, German, French, and Hungarian. Yeah, I don't see anything here of interest, though. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like that's a game. Let's see.
What to
Free of that blasted tower! Behold!
Let's move on. Next, we have a game on Steam called Gourmet Warriors, which is from Pico Interactive, which I believe is one of the publishers that publishes old games. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is an old game. This looks like an old beat-em-up game. And you can see the graphics look a little blurry and fuzzy with 4:3 ratio. And I guess the idea is that these are some kind of gourmet chefs fighting against some evil group.
What to do? What to do?
All the other screenshots have something on the side, so why did the video not have that side art? I wonder. Well, I'll put this on the fall list, but it's $9.59 discounted. It's probably not that good. It's probably an old game, and I imagine the reviews will not be that interesting. Let's see. We'll look.
Time runs out on me.
Let's see here.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Here. And then the turn. Yeah. Pico Interactive also has published like Super 3D Noah's Ark, which is not good. And then tons of other games.
How much is this worth to you?
That are old games, but not getting really any reviews. Yeah, looking at their selection of their other games, I don't see enough of a relevancy around Pico Interactive to even put this on the fall list. And on second thought, yeah. So I'm not even gonna bother to put it on the fall list because it's just gonna come right back off of it if I did. Let's see, deal 1 damage, draw some more cards. Do that. Next we have a game on Steam called Superhero League of Hoboken. Hoboken, New Jersey, I assume. This looks like an adventure game or a troll game. It looks really old though, and this is from Pico Interactive again. Like, this might be a really old game, but it might also just be a garbage game. $4.19 discounted, English only. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any relevancy here or reason why you'd want to play this. So again, I'm not even going to bother to put it on the fall list.
Science overrun.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Do this. The one thing Pico Interactive could have done, certainly, is not put all these games out at the exact same time. And here we have a game called Water Margin, The Tale of Cloud and Wind, also published by Pico Interactive. It's like, if these are actually old, like SNK games or something that I just don't have any familiarity with, there's no reason to release these on the same day. You could have done it a day after each other or one a week. It's not like you've got a full list of games that need to come out on a specific time frame. And again, Water Margin does not look particularly interesting enough to deserve to be played. I do remember playing some SNK games that looked a lot like this, but they all kind of blur together as being particularly unimportant. There we go. I think I've got a victory there.
Runs out on me.
Game Sutra has an article here. A man was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the 2013 DDoS attack, dedicated denial of service attack against Daybreak. The question here is, they often say man, but they probably mean somebody who's a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old, which, I mean, it depends. depends on what your own personal opinion is on that. If they're in their teens, I call them a teenager. I don't still generally calling people men until they're 20.
Versus Rexar.
But we may not actually get his age listed here in this article. Let's see. Austin Thomas to 27 months in prison for the role he played in a series of DDoS attacks against multiple parties and services, including Daybreak Game Studios as Sony Online Entertainment, Battle.net, League of Legends, and Dota in 2013. Court also ordered him to pay $95,000, which he'll never be able to pay. So if I was to search his name now. Let's see. Can we find anything that says how old he is? I guess the age doesn't really matter too much, but you know.
Job's done.
Yeah, I can't find any information. Like, I always think of the scene from the movie Hackers where it's like a 10-year-old, maybe a 12-year-old getting sentenced to never be able to use a computer until he's 18 years old for hacking the government in the 70s. Because, I mean, there's another case, actually, where the Central Park Five, the Exonerated Five, also I've heard them called that, they were all in their teenagers, children who had just been grabbed by the police and starved and not given a lawyer and not given access to their parents and forced to sign confessions and berated into signing false confessions. So yeah, I feel like a lot of these hacking convictions are successful because they can manipulate young people into confessing to things that other people wouldn't confess to even if they are guilty of them. Moving on though, because it's going to fall down into just an opinion piece at that point. TechRaptor has an article. A game called Dinkum is an Aussie-themed sandbox game coming to PC in 2020. You can see here it's just kind of a CG cel-shaded game. What I found was interesting about this idea is, what does being in the Australian outback really change? Maybe a little bit. You would see different animals, certainly, and it'd be a lot hotter. But in general, this really just looks like a Stardew Valley clone as much as anything else, and a Minecraft clone. Or, yeah. So, centering around Australia, I guess might be slightly more interesting instead of some fictional country, but you probably would do better with a fictional country. Like any other country, Australia has its haters and detractors too, so there you put a whole bunch of nationalism into your game for no reason. But yeah, it's coming out in 2020, so we'll see if it's worth mentioning at all. Right now it really isn't. TechRaptor has another article. Oxygen Not Included is a stressful micromanagement filled experience. This is pretty much what I experienced in similar games to this. The one I played was called Soup Co, I believe, and it was basically the same idea And I find them just not that interesting, and they don't give a full review here, but from the title alone, they did not have fun. Yeah, this looks exactly like Supco, and I definitely did not enjoy those micromanagement things. I think there's a level to these ideas where you need a certain amount of automation and acceleration to any kind of micromanagement game, so you're not actually micromanaging and instead just playing a strategy game. And a lot of micromanagement games don't do that, and instead try to sell themselves as if they are 80 hours of an enjoyable experience when they really are 80 hours of an unenjoyable experience of micromanaging things, or maybe more honestly 60 hours of unenjoyableness with potentially a few hours of actually enjoyable content. Eurogamer I don't follow anymore, and here's a good reason why. So, We Happy Few was a huge failure. I mean, there's literally no reason to be talking about it right now. There is no reason to mention it whatsoever. But clearly what happened here, if I was to guess, is that in the hype and run-up for We Happy Few, which there was a lot, Eurogamer had people pre-write the articles that they wanted to write, which weren't news articles, but just really opinion pieces, pretending like they were news articles. And when We Happy Few came out and turned out to be a huge failure that nobody liked, then these articles probably got shelved to the point where I guess Eurogamer finally felt like they needed to get this out here. So they're writing an article, How We Happy Few Explores the Injustice of Motherhood Mums the World. What they're talking about is the DLC character Sally Boyle, who is the female character that you play as, who her story is the only story from what I can tell that puts any of the main characters in a positive light. The other two stories center around male characters, both of which are depicted in a negative light, at least in a small part. Sally Boyle felt like she was constantly, from what I saw watching walkthroughs and speedruns, she felt like she was constantly being portrayed as the victim. So yeah, there was definitely some weird SJW-ness in it, but her DLC probably was also the best of the DLCs, if we're gonna be honest. But that doesn't mean much, because We Happy Few is garbage. Nobody should play it. Nobody should own it. I'm still waiting to see if somebody would be crazy enough to make a mod that would just skip all of the action sequences and all of the elements that all of the survival elements and the scavenging elements of the game, and just let you go from cutscene to cutscene to cutscene. There's very little in the game that actually needs to be played. Maybe a fight. There are some boss fights in it. I can understand the boss fights staying, or some of them staying, but the individual fights and the individual sneaking around elements, I think, could all easily disappear. Alright.
This is my responsibility.
And there goes explosive trap to kill everything I have. Yeah, but there's zero relevancy. Yeah, no reason to be talking about We Happy Few. And I imagine they just felt they needed to get rid of that article that's probably been sitting on the shelf since before We Happy Few launched, or even went in possibly into early access. Early access definitely was happening for We Happy Few, but they were hiding, or at least claiming to be hiding, a significant amount of the story elements. There's another victory for me. So yeah, that's just like a great example of why you shouldn't probably follow Eurogamers. They're just going to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And this is a bigger issue, certainly in the mainstream video game media in general, is that they're not anywhere on the same page as regular gamers. They're talking about things that in no way mattered even when they were released, let alone now. This is the same thing I see when you see so many people write articles talking about the game Thief. Thief came out years ago. There's no reason to be writing an article about that at all. You might mention it and say, oh, this game is a lot like my favorite game Thief, but there's no reason to write more than one article about it, and like one article per career, not even one article per job you have in the video game journalism. Let's just end this turn. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Nippon Ichi Software talks smartphone expansion in the weekly Famitsu. So if NIS started expanding into smartphone games, might be interesting. I believe NIS is the developers of the Persona series, although they develop Disgaea series. So you can read this article on Gamatsu if you're interested. I doubt anything will very quickly come of this kind of announcement, though, or article. It's just something that they were interviewed and talking about in Famitsu, which is probably one of 3 video game magazines in Japan. This next story is oddly phrased, so it's a little difficult to read this. TechRaptor has an article. The Swedish punk band, I assume the name of the band is Refused, will play Samurai's tracks in Cyberpunk 2077. So, like, the name of the band is Refused, and will be the people behind the music of Cyberpunk's 2077 fictional Johnny Silverhand band. The character builds the likeness and voices of Keanu Reeves. So, this is Keanu Reeves' band, is Samurai. So, okay, good to know. Although it feels like Cyberpunk 2077 is just going in circles with some of this stuff. It really doesn't feel like it is what that initial trailer was, and we knew that initial trailer was not going to be anything where you saw this robotic cyborg woman with her arms turning into basically giant spider arms or swords, and she was being shot at by the SWAT people, and you saw this slow motion bullet fly past her head. So yeah, we kind of knew that wasn't what was going to happen, but when you start adding Keanu Reeves, when you have this character that is being shown as the playable character, and he seems kind of generic and kind of boring, it gets a little questionable. What do we really know about Cyberpunk 2077 and what do we only think we know? And I think a lot of people think they know a lot more than they really know. And unlike the Witcher games, this might be a game series that's not so focused around pre-written and well-written stories, and it might just be a action game. And it might be nothing more than just a action RPG, something more akin to Deus Ex Human Revolution or Deus Ex Mankind Divided even. It may not be as impactful or important. Anyways, moving on. TechRaptor has an article here. Spider's newest RPG, Greedfall, is coming to PC and consoles this September. I don't know who Spider is, though. Greedfall apparently doesn't have a video. Okay, here's a trailer. Looks like it's probably just a fantasy world. Maybe a little bit more naval in its design. There might be something here. Maybe. Maybe not. Kind of depends on what this really turns into as far as a game.
I wonder.
Did they describe what it was? It's an RPG, but it might be an RPG of a different kind with a lot of dialogue in it. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. A 2D musical platformer called One Hand Clapping has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, and smartphones, so basically everything. Okay. Let's see what it looks like. Remember, I have no rhythm, so I'm not sure if this is really a game for me. I'm not seeing actually any musical rhythm elements. Alright, that looks like some musical rhythm elements.
What to do?
But it seems like there's some platforming in between the musical sections. And here's Jacksepticeye playing it. Interesting. Interesting, I've never seen Gematsu actually link to a Let's Play before. It's due out in 2021, so I guess we have some time to decide whether it's a game worth playing or not.
Time runs out on me.
Each one's a riddle. Each one's a riddle. Each
Gematsu has an article here. Langreaser 1 and 2 coming to the West for the PS4, Switch, and PC in early 2020. So, a somewhat known Japanese RPG is coming to the West. It seems like for the first time. We've got a bit of a trailer here. This is definitely an old school RPG though, so it'll be a bit of a tough sale to really want to play it. The thing that sells it better than your standard game though is that it is 2 games in one. And I assume both of the games are going to be kind of grindy. I almost am to the point mentally where I think I would need a... Alright, we are done. So let's move over to Paladin play for a little bit longer and then we'll wrap up this recording. Yeah, I almost need a mod to get rid of the grinding elements in old RPGs. Just being able to jump to a max level and one-shot kill enemies if they don't matter, or jump
Jaina.
through
You asked for it.
areas.
I
Like,
will fight.
if you're
with honor.
entering a cave and it's the first level of the cave, maybe you take one step. Maybe if there was a mod where you take one step, you fight a hand-picked assortment of enemies that are on level 1 of that cave. You fight them, that fight ends, you get 10, 20 levels, which would have been the equivalent of going all the way through that cave, and then you just walk with no more enemies spawning for the rest of that level. That would be the kind of mod I would just love to have. And then by the time you're done with level 1, you'd still be at the same general place you should be level-wise. You've just compressed all of the content down into something much more reasonable. I doubt there are too many mods like that, though. There's cheats, certainly, but not anything that's just going to be built around the idea of that kind of
Reporting for duty.
accelerated experience. TechRaptor has an article, Ghostbuster video game remastered. Pre-order is now available at GameStop, so I think they had already announced that this was coming, so this is no real surprise. So you can pre-order the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One at GameStop. The PC version, though, isn't likely to be at GameStop. Here we have the video,
I wonder.
and it doesn't look particularly too remastered. Like, I don't expect the graphics to actually be remastered much at all. What I just want is for the game to run a little bit better on PC. And if they can do that much, I think I'd be satisfied.
Job done.
And we're kind of doing blast from the past at this point. TechRaptor has an article, Evil Dead video game coming to consoles and PC, but not VR. The Evil Dead character here, I imagine the skin had already been made for other games, and so they maintained the rights to it, and so now they're going to try and make their own VR game, their own video game, claimed by Bruce Campbell, the actor who plays this. I don't know if this particularly means that it's going to be good or anything, or even like a big game. This might very well be a 8-bit arcade game, and this image is being picked by TechRaptor, so it's actually nothing going to. It's not going to look anything like that. That is a very good possibility.
Move quickly.
So, yeah. I liked the Evil Dead TV series that came out. It was like a Star series. I saw it on Netflix. But then the final season on it, I assume it has to be a final season, kind of just ended the story nowhere, which is not super surprising.
Let's go!
So yeah, I don't know what story you really tell there, since it is just basically demons attack him randomly and he has to fight them back, and he runs through a whole sequence. Ideally, I would want an Evil Dead game to, I guess, be something kind of like Hellblade's Suna's Sacrifice, or Suna's Sacrifice is, I think, the name of it. How did it change me like that? How did I just get that to happen? I went from an 11-11 to a stealth 1-1 with poisonous.
Job done.
Oh, he destroyed it and summoned 2 to replace it. Okay.
My hand is too full.
Yeah. Or something like the Saw game. The Saw 1, Saw 2 games that came out many years ago. They weren't great, but they kind of were in line with the movie series, so I could see something like that working pretty well.
Reporting for duty.
Check Raptor has another article here. Live out your bird brain dreams in Bossa Studios Pigeon Simulator. I believe Pigeon Simulator is from the same developers as I Am Bread, or which might explain why there's red on the faces of all the pigeons. It's probably, yeah. Yeah, they made Worlds Adrift and I Am Bread. And I don't think people really liked Worlds Adrift, and they gave up on that, I think. Pigeon Simulator. Probably just a new Goat Simulator style game. Which might be interesting. This might be the first interesting flying around as a bird game to exist, though. But it will probably only be as interesting as Goat Simulator, which is not that. It's like, the idea in general is cool. In reality, though, it's pretty dumb and something you'd only want to spend an hour or 2 on. Jack Raptor has an article here, and I think we have to compare apples to apples here. Hi-Res Studios Child's Play donation surpasses $400,000, which is definitely a lot of money, but it definitely is not the $3 million that went to Doctors Without Borders for the Summer Games Done Quick. Let's see. It's a in-game items are being sold from Smite and Paladins as a special promotion. So if you're not playing Smite or Paladins, I guess you don't have much of an opportunity to donate to this. And remember, when you're donating specifically to video game companies, scheme like this, you don't get the tax write-offs, they do, so that over $400,000 that they're going to donate now is all getting written off their taxes. Here we have a Gamma Sutra article. Summer Games Done Quick closes a 2019 event with $3 million raised for MSF. MSF is apparently the subtitle for Doctors Without Borders, or the real name. Notice that Games Done Quick's logo, they really abandoned the Summer Games Done Quick logo with their non-gendered It's Them Sonic ripoff character that they realized, I think, very quickly, and I guess this is probably evidence of a good thing that they gave up on that, because it was not playing well to anybody. Let's play another game. We've got still a decent amount of stuff to talk about. We'll try and rush through it. Gamma Sutra has an article. Valve is going to release the Index 3D models to help people make mods for the VR headset and the controller mods, which is a cool idea, releasing it on GitHub so that you can make your own 3D model mods. I doubt very many people are going to take them up on it, because inherently you're still probably spending $1,000 first before you buy a 3D printer and make some kind of mod to it. So this is definitely a rich man's game, not an average gamer's game, or something an average gamer could do. Next we have a game on Steam called Eat This, where apparently you're throwing items of fruit towards plants in this VR game. Seems to me like this is pretty much just a Plants vs. Zombies in 3D. Although you're playing, I guess, as the zombie. Yeah, and the plants are fighting against you. It's $2.09 for a VR game. That's extremely cheap. Discounted, English only. Yeah. Well, the art doesn't look terrible. It is just asset flip art, so that's, yeah, not making it to the follow list. And speaking of games not making it to the fall list, we have Be Puzzled, Jigsaw Puzzle Japan. We're starting to see once every couple days a jigsaw puzzle game with different pictures. $1.59 discounted, a bunch of languages. Not worth buying. Even though it says it has like 103 jigsaw puzzles, still not worth buying. There is software out there you can find that will let you use any image you want to make a jigsaw puzzle. So if you got that, you could then just go to Google image search any pictures you're interested in. It would just be cheaper in the long run to do that. And this isn't particularly a good interface for jigsaw puzzles. As we move on to the next game, Bepuzzle Jigsaw Puzzle Nature, it's frankly, if you're going to do jigsaw puzzles, you probably need a mobile app, companion app at the very least. $1.59 discounted again. Bunch of language supports. Again, not making it to the fall list.
Reporting for duty. Last warning.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Event Horizon Frontier, which is like a 4X space game with 1990s level graphics. Doesn't look interesting. Although it does look better than a few of the space games I've seen, it's not looking that great still. $3.99, 20% discount. This might not be a 4X game at all. This might just be a build your own ship game. I know that there was a space game where you build your own ship and then fight it. So I might be a little wrong about what this is. But I'm so turned off by space games in general, it just doesn't matter. If I see a space game, I'm like, I don't care. And particularly one that doesn't look visually appealing, and this does not look visually appealing.
All charged up.
Gamma Sutra has an article here. Free-to-play studio Red Hill Games secures 11.4 million investment. This is too inside baseball for me, pretty much. Based in Helsinki, to help to create games that will have global impact. That's pretty much all they can say. That's not really news. And this. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Car Transporter 2013. Odd that this is coming out, or that this was shown to have come out today. So this must have been on some other storefront for the past 6 years, I guess. It definitely doesn't look like an interesting game, though. Playing as a car transporter. Even in a trucking simulator sense, being a car transporter must be a pretty rare career path. This is $4.79, 40% discounted. That's way too expensive. English and German. Yeah, there's no way you could convince me that this is a game worth playing. Even the concept falls apart. It makes no sense.
The battle.
Let's go.
Still got a few more games to talk about. We have Woodcutter Simulator 2011. So this must be from the same developer publisher. They're just putting their games on Steam. Maybe they took their games off of Steam and now they're putting them back. I don't know how many trees you actually cut using a giant saw. I think most people that cut trees are still using chainsaws.
Reporting for duty.
This game is $4.19 discounted, English, German, French. Yeah, again, not a game that would be in any way interesting.
Reporting for duty.
Let's go!
To battle.
Only a few more. Next we have a game called Heavyweight Transporter Simulator. This again is from the same publisher. So again, no reason to put these games that are old out on the same day. Spread them out by a week. Maybe you'll get more attention. Like, maybe once in my YouTube career I put all of an entire series out in a very short amount of time. But the vast majority of time, I make people come back to my YouTube channel if they want to see the content. I make it actually something that's more interesting and worthwhile to see on a daily basis. Then, yeah, there's no reason to overwhelm people. Nobody's gonna play 3 games from your from 2013. It seems like in one day. Next we have a game on Steam called Unearthing Mars Ancient Wars, and from that video you can immediately see that this was a PlayStation VR game originally, but that might be a good thing in the world of VR because that might mean that this is a well visually polished shooter in VR. And I am definitely seeing some graphics here that look more polished by far than most VR games. So this is $9.99, 50% discount, requires VR, supports a bunch of languages. I'm gonna put this on the fall list. It probably is a stand in one place shooting guns game, fighting against what looks like boss fights, which is more interesting than just a horde mode fight.
All charged up!
Like that.
Get down!
He's got every secret in the book. Next we have a game on Steam called Total Party Kill, which seems like it's a parody of a fantasy RPG game where you are as the mage killing your other people to activate switches and such. Or seems like you don't always play as the mage, you switch between the 3 characters. So it's almost a parody of Triad. It's $4.49 discounted. The Total Party Kill is, it's English only, 7 achievements. It looks like there might be a game here, little puzzles to do. So I'll put this on the fall list and see how people will respond to it. It might be boring, it might be short. Those things certainly could be the case. Gamatsu has the same article talking about Greedfall launching September 10th. They don't have a video really showing what it is either. It says it's an action RPG game. It's coming out for the PS4 and Xbox One.
Must move quickly. Reporting for duty.
Let's see, I'm trying to look at John T. Drake's.
Let me
John T. Drake is what? Major Nelson tweeted him. He's the head of global portfolio strategy and acquisitions at PlayStation, and I think he may have left his position, if I'm understanding the conversation right.
justice.
But I could be wrong about that. So, Okay, here we go. So John T. Drake tweeted, "Today is my last day as head of portfolio strategy and content at PlayStation. So proud that we've accomplished over these 5 years, supporting games big and small, making cool things happen at the PlayStation Nation. Thank you for your team, the partners, and the fans." Now here's the question: was John T. Drake part of the problem at PlayStation in this new wave of censorship, or is he just the latest victim to be kicked out as the new order comes in? I would say over the past 5 years we haven't had censorship. It's been over the past year or so, so I would suspect heavily that he stopped really being in charge a lot earlier, which often happens in these situations, and other people have been allowed to take control. Seriously. Can we kill anything else? Nope. So yeah, we'll see who's the next person who will be the head of portfolio strategy and content at PlayStation, and probably they're the ones to blame, if I was to guess, for the latest censorship. But it probably is also a big cultural shift happening at PlayStation, Sony Interactive Entertainment. Now we don't need to play another game though. We are done for today. Tech Raptor has an article here. Langreaser 1 and 2 return with enhanced visuals and polished gameplay. Polished gameplay sounds really intriguing to me. We already kind of talked about that though. And then let's see. Car Mechanic Simulator for the PlayStation 4 is now available. It's been on PC for a while. It may still be in early access on the PC. We are still running into some games that are in early access well, on PC while they're getting released otherwise. And the Humble Bundle does finally have a games bundle, but it is a PlayStation games bundle. So you can get Grim Fandango, The Bard's Tale, and Inner Space for $1 on the PlayStation 4. If you pay more than the average of $8, or is that $6? No, it's $8.73. You get Layers of Fear, Wasteland 2, The Talos Principle, and Broken Age. This is a weird combination of games. And if you pay $15, you get Killing Floor 2 and Shadow Warrior, all on the PS4. So they're still not really trying to have any games bundles come out during the Steam Summer Sale. And that just puts me back at my Twitter feed. So we started a little bit early today, and that's gonna probably mean that there will be a little bit of leftover news for Friday, which is fine. Retropie version 4.5 is released, but it's only for the Retropie 0, 1, 2, and 3. Not for the 4, they're still working on that. And Twitch support is investigating issues impacting access to the site. and then it tweets a follow-up. Let's see, that was 56 minutes later, and then 26 minutes. So 30 minutes after the first tweet, they say we were recovering from issues from impacting access to Twitch. I noticed Facebook wasn't loading images earlier today too, so I bet there's some AWS problems happening. Amazon warehouse services. Let's see. LibRetro put out a YouTube video on how to install RetroArch on a Steam Link. If you're interested in that, they're making these little videos showing how to install it on basically everything, which is a smart move. The how-to videos work. Let's see, I'm scrolling down. Reddit's talking about Rihanna Pratchett, but I'm pretty sure Rihanna Pratchett, daughter of Terry Pratchett, who is known for writing in video games, I'm pretty sure her agent or something is up to it. You don't get talked about on Reddit if you're not manipulating it somehow. So I don't think that there's any real news there. Apparently the Grid reboot is delayed till October. We'll maybe talk about that on Friday. And let's see. Scrolling down, see if there's any actual news. And oh, Gearbox Official put out their the guidelines to cosplay as Moxie, Tina, Mordecai, and Maya. So, with the exception of Mordecai, all of those characters are the more well, I don't know if Tina's really scantily clad, but Moxie definitely is. The lesser focused on, I think, in Borderlands 3. I bet those characters don't really play much of a role at all in Borderlands 3. Let's see. And the picture they're showing of Moxie in particular is a different animation, different visual look. They've kind of changed the visual look of all the characters. Although, why anybody would cosplay as Mordecai makes no sense. He has like a helmet and a mask and a beard, and so he's almost completely covered in cloth. Gamasutra has an article stating the obvious. Artifacts pricing and value doesn't quite line up, says consulting designer. No duh. Gearbox just tweeted out the word Borderlands. That's all they have to tweet out, I guess. Still scrolling. There was a lot of tweets that came out while we were streaming today. So this is kind of the problem of starting early. But that's fine. Starting early is better than starting late. By far. Didn't see anybody on the chat, so we'll see how many people want to view. It is the 4th of July, basically. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are busy setting up for that and or just taking the week off of YouTube because of that. Yeah. And so there's no more news to talk about. So we are done with this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe to any YouTube channel, make sure you click the notification bell the right way and look at all the options so you get actual notifications every time somebody puts out a video. If you want to support me personally, There's a link down to Patreon, or as the Steam Summer Sale is still going on, you can still friend me and gift me a game off my wishlist or a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.